Hi friends, myself Amar Mohite and I am a pharma professional. Today we are going to discuss cleaning validation. It is not possible to cover entire cleaning validation in one single video. In this session, we will quickly go through some basics of cleaning validation, different methodologies used to establish the limits and acceptance criteria, establishment of specification limit for swab and rinse samples, and finally swab and rinse recovery studies. Before proceeding further, I would like to request that please watch this video till the end and subscribe my channel if you like the content of this video. Friends, manufacturing equipments are one of the source of product contamination. Inadequately clean manufacturing equipments can lead to unacceptable amount of carryover from one product to next product. The equipments which are dedicated for manufacturing of only one product have very less concern of carryover of API from one product to another product. As per US FDA guidance documents, the visually clean criteria may be appropriate for the dedicated equipments. However, the cleaning validation may still required because of concern of carryover of detergent or degradants or environmental contaminants from one product to another product. Cleaning validation demonstrates that cleaning procedure is adequately and consistently removes the product residue, process residues and environmental contaminants. Cleaning validation plays an important role in reducing the possibility of product contamination due to manufacturing equipments, so as to these equipments can be used for manufacture of subsequent product. The limits and acceptance criteria for cleaning validation study are very crucial. The limits should be practicable, verifiable, achievable and scientifically sound. The practicable means the limits should be based on experience of cleaning procedure. Verifiable means appropriately qualified analytical method shall be used to quantify the amount of residues in cleaning samples. The limit shall not be selected arbitrarily. Rather, it should be established based on logical and scientific basis. There are different approaches and methodologies used for the determination of limits and acceptance criteria of cleaning validation. These methodologies are drug active dose criteria, that is on the basis of drug active dose. Second method is based on the toxicity, and third one is general limit, that is 10 ppm criteria. Drug active dose criteria or this methodology will be applicable only if you know the therapeutic dose of the product. Here MACO, that is maximum allowable carryover as per drug active dose, can be calculated as per this formula, that is therapeutic dose of previous product into minimum batch size of next product divided by safety factor into therapeutic dose of next product. Here safety factor varies. For topical products, the safety factor can be considered between 10 to 100. For oral products, same safety factor can be considered between 100 to 1000. And for parenteral drugs, the safety factor will be between 1000 to 10,000. Let's take one example. If therapeutic dose of previous product is 10 mg and minimum batch size of next product is 50 kg, the therapeutic dose of next product is 250 milligram. Based on this information, we can calculate the maximum allowable carryover. 10 mg, that is therapeutic dose of previous product, into 50 kg. 50 kg will be converted into first in gram, so 50 into 1000, it will be converted to gram. Further to convert mg, again you have to calculate with you have to multiply with additional 1000, that is it will come figure like this. So 10 into 50 kg divided by safety factor divided by therapeutic dose of next product, that is 250. Based on this calculation, the MACO as per drug active dose criteria will be 2000 mg. It means that 2000 mg of residue from entire common surface between two products of equipments is acceptable. There are typically two types of calculations based on toxicity. First is ADE or PDE. ADE stands for acceptable daily exposure and PDE for permitted daily exposure. ADE term is mentioned in FDA documents, whereas PDE is accepted by EMA, European Medical Agency. This ADE and PDE calculation is based on NOAEL, that is no observable adverse effect level. The value of ADE or PDE is calculated by qualified toxicologist, and we have to use this ready-made value given by the toxicologist. Hence, we will not discuss in details about ADE or PDE. The next calculation is based on LD50 values. LD stands for lethal dose and 50 for 50%. That is dose of test substance which is lethal for 50% of animals in dose group. It means that if you give the dose of LD50 level, 50% of the animals will die in that group. LD50 calculation is based on NOEL, that is no observable effect level. This criteria will be applicable to when you don't know the therapeutic dose, Particularly, LD50 criteria will be applicable for calculations of limits of detergents and intermediates. The next methodology for calculation of MACO, that is maximum allowable carryover, is general limit. Most of the industries follows the general limit of 10 ppm. However, this 10 ppm has no base, no any scientific base. This approach is applied when the calculations of drug active dose and toxicity sometimes give some abnormal or irrelevant values. In those cases, this 10 ppm criteria can be used for the calculation of MACO. Here calculation will be based on your maximum concentration, that is 10 ppm, in other words 10 microgram per gram into minimum batch size of next product. If minimum batch size of next product is 100 kg, the maximum allowable carry over will be 1000 milligram, that is 1 gram. To convert this 10 microgram into milligram, you have to divide this by 1000. Okay, and again to convert from gram to milligram, you have to divide again with 1000. So this point not 1 is milligram per milligram. There are different sampling methods in cleaning validation. These methods are visual inspection, second one is swab sampling, and third one is rinse sampling. Visual inspection criteria is based on the visual inspection of equipment surface. The cleaning of equipment will be decided based on the visual inspection. The next sampling method is swab sampling method. Generally, either 5 by 5, that is 25 centimeter square, or 10 by 10, that is 100 centimeter square area is considered for swab sampling. Two different kinds of limits can be established for swab samples. First limit will be mass per swab, that is microgram per swab. And second limit will be mass per fixed volume, that is microgram per ml. Once you have a MACO value with you, it is very easy to establish limit for swab and rinse sampling methods. The MACO value is generally the minimum limit or minimum value obtained by three different approaches, that is drug dose approach, toxicity, and general limit. Out of three values, whichever is less value, that will be considered as MACO, that is maximum allowable carryover. So based on MACO, you can calculate the limit for swab in microgram per swab as well as in microgram per ml. How to calculate this? MACO, that is maximum allowable carryover, into swabbed area, that is either 25 centimeter square or 100 centimeter square, whichever is applicable as per your SOP, and divided by SSA, that is shared surface area between two products. Shared surface area of equipment between two products, that is common area of equipment which is used for manufacturing of two products, that is previous and next product. So limit in microgram per swab will be MACO into swab area, that is 25 or 100 centimeter square, divided by shared surface area. And how to calculate limit in microgram per ml? The formula will remain same, only you have to divide it by volume of swab solvent, that is solvent, volume of solvent taken for extraction or dissolve the swab stick or your swab sample. It is generally 10 or 20 ml. So how to establish limit in microgram per ml? That is MACO into swab area, that is 25 or 100 centimeter square, divided by shared surface area of equipment between two products, divided by volume of swab solvent, that is 5, 10 or 20, whichever is applicable as per your methodology. The limit for rinse will be expressed in mass per fixed volume, that is microgram per ml or ppm. Microgram per ml, you can also call it as parts per million, that is ppm. How to calculate the limit for rinse? That is formula is MACO, that is maximum allowable carryover, into area sampled by rinse, that is overall area of equipment covered under rinse, divided by shared surface area divided by rinse sampling volume. This will give you the limit in microgram per ml or ppm or rinse sampling. In next part of our video, we will see how to determine the swab and rinse recoveries. Swab and rinse recovery studies can be performed at the time of analytical method validation, or these studies can be performed separately also. Swab recovery study involves the study on coupons of appropriate material of construction. Swab recovery study shall be performed on all product contact surfaces. For example, if there are 3 different product contact surfaces are involved, like SS, glass, Teflon, then recovery study shall be performed on all 3 product contact surfaces. Generally, the coupons of 5 by 5 centimeter, that is 25 centimeter square, or 100 centimeter square shall be used as per your SOP. A known amount of analyte shall be spiked on coupons, preferably at 100% specification limit, or you can cover the recovery study on different concentration levels also. After spiking known amount of residues on coupons, allow those coupons to dry. After proper drying, take the swab as per the methodology mentioned in your protocol or SOP and dissolve those swab in appropriate amount of solvent, that is swab solvent. Perform the analysis and determine the recovery of the swab. Percent recovery will be equal to amount recovered divided by amount added into 100. Normally, if your recovery is observed between 70% to 130%, there is no requirement of correction of recovery factor in either limit or analytical results. If the observed recovery is below between 50 to 70%, then you have to correct your limit or results with the appropriate correction factor. The recovery below 50% is not acceptable. It can be used, it can be allowed, but with proper justification. The limits of recovery studies are similarly applicable to RINS recovery studies also. It is very difficult to perform RINS recovery studies in laboratory because the situations during cleaning of or during rinsing of manufacturing equipments, those situations are very difficult to simulate in laboratory. The RINS recovery can be performed using different approaches. One of the approaches, suspend your coupon over a clean beaker, spike known amount of residue or API on your coupon, allow it to dry, then rinse the coupon and collect the rinse in clean beaker. This is one of the approach. Another approach is take a suitable beaker of suitable material of construction, spike the residue or spike the API of known concentration at the bottom of the beaker, allow it to dry, rinse with appropriate solvent, collect that rinse and measure the recovery. Swab recovery is vary person to person. So it is recommended to perform swab recovery in triplicate at least by 2 different analysts. The lowest recovery observed out of these 2 analysts shall be considered for calculation. Also, some specific acceptance criteria shall be mentioned in protocol to measure the variation between recoveries obtained by 2 different analysts. RINS recovery is independent of analyst and there are no chances of variation in RINS recoveries by 2 different analysts. Hence, RINS recovery can be performed by only 1 analyst. So friends, this was all about the general principles of cleaning validation. As it was told at the beginning of session, it is very difficult to cover the concept like cleaning validation in single video. I have tried my level best to convey general principles of cleaning validation to you. At the end of session, I would like to request you, if you have liked the content of my video, please subscribe my channel. Good night. Thanks.